practice speaking affirmations over yourself. The more you hear it, the more you believe that it's true.
And welcome to Premier Fitness. I'm Gene Williams, your yoga instructor, and I'm here to tell you about the benefits of yoga.
Hey, thank you for joining us. You have just tuned in to Where is the Love? I am your host. I am Stephanie Hawkenholm, and I'm going solo today. My sidekick ain't with me today. He's not feeling well, so I am doing this, having this conversation with a guest who I'll introduce shortly. So if you are watching us, you should be watching us on our YouTube channel, Love Misunderstood Institute, where you can find any of our shows. Just check out our playlist, Where is the Love? And you can see all of our episodes there. Also, if you can watch us live, yes, I said live, Live, on Amazon Fire or on Roku. And you can search on those channels. You can search POD TV space LIVE, POD TV space LIVE, and watch us live on TV at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time every Sunday. Also, you can, I forgot to say, on another YouTube channel you can watch us on is Premier Fitness 0210, and that is Gene Williams' YouTube channel. That's my son. That's my sidekick that's missing today. Last week on our show, if you missed our show last week, we talked to Cameo Bobo. She does a nighttime live audience TV show. So if you missed that, go back and check out that interview. So without further ado, we have another guest today, and we're, talking more about adult bullying. Like I've said so many times, adults always say kids bully. No, adults bully too. So we have been bringing guests on our show that share about their childhood bullying experiences as well as their adult bullying experiences. So without further ado, we're bringing on Ayesis Clay. Come on in, Ayesis.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing fantastic today. How are you?
Thank you. I am doing great. It's good to have you on our show. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So, Ayesis, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Tell us.
Absolutely. So I'm Ayesis Clay, and I'm the CEO and founder of Sculpted Clay Productions, which is an educational consulting organization where I help educators re-energize their love of teaching, reactivate their inner creativity, and then rejuvenate their emotional wellness so that they can be rock stars for themselves, their loved ones, and their students. So one of the ways that I do that is through professional development, through a keynote, which is actually my solo show. I'm a theater artist as well. And through a variety of other means, retreats for school leaders. But it boils all down to emotional resilience for educators and students, because I still work with students as well.
So how does that work with the teachers? Because yes, teachers do need to be encouraged. They need to be empowered, to be able to deal with the students, because students, just like everybody else, come from everywhere, come from all kinds of backgrounds. And so how do you help what's your professional development look like for your teachers?
Yes, absolutely. So I do want to say this, though, that it's not just the students that teachers are dealing with. It's a multi-armed, I call it almost like an octopus arm or octopus arms that are contributing to emotional unwellness, I will say, for educators. But my professional development, I go in, and the very first part of it is they get to see a show, which is, like I was saying, my keynote, which is my solo show, where they get to see a teacher dealing with all of the, what I call the trifecta of challenges to emotional wellness for teachers, and that's burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma. And we can talk about those a little bit later. But they see a teacher's journey dealing with and coping with those three things at different points in their career. Sometimes coping with it very well, and then other times not so much. And then the professional development goes into naming those three things. So often we use this term burnout as a catch-all for everything that we're feeling.
Yeah.
Not just educators, literally everyone. We use this term burnout when we're feeling tired, when we're feeling at the point where it seems like the work that we're doing is too much. And it may not just be burnout. It could be, like I said before, compassion fatigue or vicarious secondary trauma that we're experiencing. And so in the professional development that I deliver, we name those, and then I provide my magic framework, which is an acronym of the steps and some ways to kind of shore ourselves up from the effects of compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma.
So one of the things we talk about quite often, and you kind of alluded to it, is that, you know, when things are going on, we have to name it that. We have to admit that it is a real thing.
Right.
We have to confess that it is happening so that we can start our healing process. And Jean usually says, you know, just like an alcoholic, you know, first you admit that you're an alcoholic and then you can get the help. And so that's just, you know, usually what he talks about. So, I mean, you just, you know, alluded to that, you know, by, you know, it's important. People, when you don't acknowledge there's something that's even happening, how are you? I mean, there's no healing for it. There's no way to heal because you're, I can't even think of the word, because you're ignoring the fact that it's even a thing.
Absolutely. And what I find a lot of times is that it's not necessarily that educators are ignoring the fact that they are dealing with the emotional complexities of teaching today. That's not really the problem. The problem is, again, we're so accustomed to using this one phrase as a catch-all.
Yeah.
And the way that you heal from burnout is not the same way that you can heal from the effects of compassion fatigue or secondary trauma. So knowing exactly what you're dealing with so that then you can know what to put into place to heal from that, or to make sure that you stay out of the danger zone with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being able to identify it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So important. And it's not just important for the individual educator, for the individual teacher, but also for school leadership. So they can see, you know, okay, the community that we are servicing is in crisis. You know, maybe the community that we're servicing is dealing with high levels of violence or drug abuse, or maybe even poverty, or any of the many different ways that communities can be in crisis.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then I need to also provide supports, not just for myself as a school leader, but also for my instructional staff, my support staff, my entire school, so that we can effectively support the students in our, you know, school community.
Right. That's good. So I have a number of questions.
Okay.
So I know that you are in theater,
Yeah.
and I know that theater is an art. What led you to doing theater?
Oh my goodness. That is a really good question, because I don't know if I ever chose theater. I feel like theater chose me from a very early age.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. So my introduction into theater actually started with poetry. I will always and forever say that it was Miss Nikki Giovanni and it was Miss Maya Angelou who actually jump started my love of spoken
Wow.
word, of the spoken word, and of
Yeah.
um, portraying character through, the spoken word. When I was young, I would memorize these poems, and I would get asked around the county, around my area, to perform it. And so I
Wow.
would perform it in churches and at civic meetings and in school and all these other places. And I think it was my 10th grade year in high school where we had a theater teacher, and she uh, she put some Shakespeare in my hand for the first time. And I was like, ah! But the way that she helped me work through that really flamed that fire. And so I went to school and to North Carolina Central University. I started out at Howard as a theater major, and then transferred to North Carolina Central University, where I was a theater major, and I graduated as a theater major.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, it's something that, when we're kids, we don't know, how our lives are going to, end up. But, like you started so young,
Yeah.
doing theater. And so, as a result of you, doing the theater, it became a thing. You can see how something, when you plan, or, when you start something,
Yeah.
how, a seed is planted for a bigger
Absolutely.
thing. And you
Absolutely.
don't know that when it's happening.
Oh no, and it's funny that you say that, because bless her heart, bless my mother's heart. Um, I've always been kind of an odd duck, you know, in the family, and she helped plant some seeds, and allowed me to really develop into who I am, and with all of my eccentricities. I don't think that's the word. I didn't pronounce it correctly, but I was very eccentric, and she didn't understand it, but she allowed that, and she allowed me to kind of grow into the person um, that I am, and so I have to bless her soul, because I know at times I gave her quite a like, oh Lord, this child, what is she doing now? I actually that's a part in my solo show in the very beginning, where it's a autobiographical look at my
Hmm.
journey. Like I said, I was a theater major in college, and the plan was always to graduate from undergraduate and then hightail it to New York and be this famous Broadway star. I never really was interested in film, but just really on the stage. That was the plan. And in college, I fell in love and met my husband, and we got married, and we decided that, well, I decided that I did not want to raise children inside of New York City, inside of Manhattan. So we split the difference, and we ended up right outside of Washington, D.C. But in the very beginning, I wasn't getting a lot of roles.
Yeah.
I was new to the city, and I was like, I don't know what to do. My husband, who was an educator, he was a teacher. He actually provided the spark to kind of get into education. And so I started at the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services, which, if you're not familiar with that, that is where young people who have been incarcerated, locked up, they go inside of facilities to wait for court dates or placement into
Mm.
group homes, that kind of deal. And I taught there. I taught there first for almost 4 years. Yeah. And without any kind of educational background, just my theater background and a love for connecting with people. But also, that's where the trauma started as an educator. Um, what we don't talk about often, or hardly ever, that I've seen, is the amount of trauma that teachers can experience
Yeah.
when they're supporting young people who are dealing with trauma.
Wow.
And yeah, you don't think about that. You don't think about
I
what happens
never thought of that.
to the teacher. Yes, when we lose young people, when young people we lose them to gang violence, or lose them to, for whatever reason, whether
Yeah.
it's illness or whatever, we don't think that this is a teacher who's been pouring into them for years and who has developed a relationship with these students. And unfortunately, that's happened several times over the course of my career where um, I've had to experience the loss of students. And I'm not by any means the only teacher who experiences this. Thus, one of the reasons why I've developed this professional development, because teachers by and large are empathetic. I can't think of one teacher that got into this profession thinking, I hate children, I'm going to go teach.
Yeah.
No one does that.
Yeah.
But once we get inside of it, the reality, the emotional weight, I talk about that a lot, about in education, can push us in different ways. So anyway, that's how I got into it, and that's how the solo show started. Is me really looking at the journey I had taken from a theater major. Like, how did I get here? How did I get to lying on my bathroom floor, crying my eyes out and dealing with depression, um, dealing with a heavy dose of imposter syndrome? Like, who am I to teach these children? Who am I? I can't do this. I'm not the person to do this. They need too much. They need too much. I can't do this. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And so a solo show came out of it, which has been pretty good. It's played at the Kennedy Center here in Washington, D.C., which I'm very proud of, and has toured all across the country. And so, yeah.
So tell us about, because I was going to ask you about that. So tell us about your touring. I saw that you toured with Standing on the Edge.
Yes.
That and then and sculpting. Wait a minute, Standing on the Edge and sculpting clay, and then how the mother of unicorns, how you
Yes.
became the mother of unicorns. So tell us about those two things.
Yes, absolutely. So Standing on the Edge came first. When I left, well, let me draw a little line here. So when I left the Department of Juvenile Services, I went to Suitland High School in right outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And I was there for the balance of my teaching career as a theater teacher and department chair. And so as I was, and I loved it, as you can probably tell, I loved it.
Yeah.
But as I was teaching, I realized that a lot of the issues that the students were dealing with were issues that I had dealt with on, maybe a slightly different level, but it was pretty much the same. And as a teenager, I told you poetry was my jam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had all of these written poems and these very angsty journal entries. And so I went back to those to see if I could get some more insight on what my students were feeling. And out of that, and out of conversations with my students, came Standing on the Edge. And Standing on the Edge is an ensemble piece for secondary schools. Right now, it's presented as a residency, and it deals with that. It deals with some of the things that you talk about bullying. It deals with self-esteem. It deals with pressure. Peer pressure, but also parental pressure. What does it look like when what you want out of your life and who you know who you are, or who you're developing to be, but parents or adults want to push a different identity on you. And so
Mm-hmm.
what does that feel like, and what does that look like? And so that's Standing on the Edge. As it is now, I've taken the topics of Standing on the Edge, and I go to high schools across the country, and we do a devised theater workshop where they actually get to write the pieces that are inside of it, and then they perform it for their school.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's touring like that right now. It's toured as a ensemble where I'm the director and I have a set cast. We've gone
Mm-hmm.
to Atlanta, we've played in DC, we've played in a couple other places. But again, like right now, it's a residency for high schools where we go around doing that.
Well, and I think that's real cool because, it gives them an opportunity to, share, their thoughts and put the, help put the pieces together, and then to be able to act it out. Well, I mean, that, puts a whole nother perspective, on
Yes.
the sculpting. I mean, you're actually sculpting your own piece.
Yes, absolutely. I just came back from a residency a couple of maybe 2 days ago from a school system where the young people got an opportunity to devise pieces on topics that are important to them, and
Mhm.
it's kind of the same thing. And I was telling everyone how incredibly important it is that we provide spaces for young people to voice how they feel about their world, how they feel about themselves and their peers. So often we talk at them
Yeah.
as adults without listening to what they have to say. And so it's so super important. Even as my company digs further into supporting educators, it's always important. I will always have an arm of my company that supports students through this. It's so invaluable
Yeah.
hearing their authentic voice and giving them the opportunity to create around it. It's an opportunity that it always re-energizes me, and they always surprise me.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you allow them to do that, because I know that elevates their minds to a new level. When you allow them to do that, and then again like I said, to be able to act it out as well.
Yeah.
That's real cool. And so you talked about writing poems, writing poetry, as a kid, and Maya Angelou, and your inspirations, for writing poetry. Gene has written a lot of poetry as well. He does a lot of journaling. He's been doing journaling for years,
Mhm.
but he started writing poetry as a kid, and he would write me poems, and he wrote a poem now is 20 years old, and that poem it's a 2-page poem, and it has been hanging on my wall everywhere I have lived for the last 20 years. And it's talking about, I don't even know where I'm going,
Mhm.
and so it's a faith walk, and the way he wrote it was not the way that I received it. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, I have got to have this because it helps me, with my faith walk. It helps me remember when I don't know where I'm going, I just have to keep walking, because
Yeah.
that's what the poem says. I don't even know where I'm going. I see the trees and stuff, and I just keep walking. I want to stop, and a voice inside me says, keep going.
Oh.
And I'm saying, and then he's saying, because a voice came to him saying, you're a servant and a leader. And he said, how can a servant be a leader?
Mm.
Wait.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
voice said, you selfish child, you just keep walking. And I'm paraphrasing, but man, that thing is so powerful. So most of the time when I read it, Isis, I am feeling low. I am in a low
Mm.
place in my life, and I have it right next to an art piece that it's a picture, and it's a big picture.
Yeah.
And I bought it in Atlanta years ago when he first started college, which he wrote that poem before that. And
Oh,
so
wow.
they are always on my wall right next to each other. And so the
Wow.
picture is footprints, and it's black people,
Yes.
a black, man carrying another black man. And so you see the storms, and him carrying, during the storm, the man carrying the man. And then before that, you see, sunshiny skies, and
Yeah.
4 sets of footprints, whereas in the storms is 2. So
Yes.
the poem just goes so well with it. And when he wrote it, I said, this is so, he was 20.
Wow.
And so it's almost 22 years ago. July would be 22 years ago he wrote that. But it just means so much. But he's been writing poetry for years. He, writes his own music. He's released 2 singles
Nice.
and videos.
Mhm.
And so the second one was just released the end of January.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's
Nice.
doing the doggone thing, but
Sounds like it.
when it comes to, arts, and he acts as well. He's done some short films.
Mhm.
So, this conversation, y'all would have had a really great conversation. But I just love it when people are able to write poetry,
Yeah.
and to, put their feelings on paper. And, this makes me think about when I was going to college.
Mhm.
I would have to write papers.
Yes.
I would write the paper, and then when the teacher would give it back to me, then I would read it again. And I'm like, where was I at
Mm,
when I wrote this? I mean, my mind. Where was my mind?
right.
I wrote this, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely understand that. And it's funny that the written word is so powerful.
Yes.
And I have a course called Right to Create. It's for educators, and it's using the written word.
I was going to say
Using the written word.
about that too.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I?
Go ahead. No. You keep talking. So keep telling us about that. That's just one of the things I had to ask you.
No, when you're talking about the power of writing and the power of reflecting, like where was I when I, reading, going back and reading, where was I at
Yeah.
this point mentally? When I wrote the solo show, when I wrote Sculpting Clay, or How I Became Mother of Unicorns, that's the whole name of the solo show. I was in a very low place. As a matter of fact, the very first iteration of it was an apology letter to my students. And out of that came, a different iteration of it. But I was at a low place, and I had the opportunity to really develop it. And after I had healed from a lot of the things that I was going through at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and writing from on top of it versus inside of it, made all the difference. And so what I mean by on top of it versus inside of it, a lot of times we journal. If we journal, we're inside of something. So something is going on right now, presently, and
Yeah.
we're writing down our feelings about what's happening with that right now. Writing from on top of it is you've learned the lesson, or you have gotten some sort of wisdom from this journey. You have space from it and can actually look at it from the outside. So that's normally when you see memoir writing. Those are memoirs generally. And did I freeze?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought I had frozen. Okay.
No, you're fine. I'm just listening, so I'm focused.
Okay, no worries. So memoir writing. And so I wanted to offer that opportunity for other educators, because there was so much healing that the written word allowed me, but it was not just the healing, it was the sharing of it that kind of completed the cycle of healing for me. So I offer this workshop on this. It's a course called Right to Create, and it's a 6-week course where educators dig into memoir writing. And that can be narratively, like normally we see memoirs like a book. It can be a solo show like mine. It can be a group of a selection of poetry, a compilation of poetry. However it is that the word comes out of you, we explore that as a means of healing from compassion fatigue or any kind of trauma that you've experienced in or out of the classroom. A lot of the teachers take the route of looking at it through the classroom. And it's been an amazing journey supporting two cohorts at this point. We're going to actually have a third cohort open up in April for educators, and educators in the broad sense of the word. So whether they are homeschool educators, whether they are school leaders or classroom-based teachers, teaching artists, as long as you've had some sort of connection with teaching others or teaching young people, this is for you. So yeah, it's just such a incredibly transformational thing to be able to put your words down and to be able to reflect creatively on the journey that you've taken.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit earlier about the young people being able to perform it, to perform their words. There's something just as magical having teachers and educators write down their journey and share it with other educators or beyond educational circles, and feeling the support. Because a lot of times teachers and educators are not feeling the support right now,
Yeah.
but when they are able to write down their journey and share it, it's such a beautiful experience.
That's so awesome. So awesome. I want to, before we run out of time, we'll come back to some of this because I still have some questions.
Okay.
But I want to ask you about your bullying experiences as a child. As you read the list of the different types of bullying, did you know there were so many different types?
Not at all. I did not. Now, I will say this. Again, with my background as an educator, you see all of these types, or maybe not even all of them, but a lot of these types of bullying.
Yeah.
But I had never stopped to think that it was separate types
Yes.
of things. And so to your point, no, when I looked at the long list, I was like, oh, wow. Wow. Yes, that is bullying too. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so that was very eye-opening. I know, my husband and I talk about this often. Like I said, he's an educator for many years as well, about the bullying that happens in our youth, as we're children, especially in middle school gets a bad rep, middle
Yeah.
school, I feel like everyone bullies everybody. It feels
Yeah.
like, that's not the case, but there is a heavy amount, for a couple of reasons, where they are developmentally and just the age group. But I feel like that was my biggest time struggle personally was in middle school. When I was in middle school,
Yeah.
being bullied. But the thing that really, two things came up as I was going through the list. One was the fact that, and I said this before, about educators and supporting young people. They're dealing with, and I know we adults can deal with these things as well, and absolutely do in the school building. But supporting young people who are dealing with all of this, and it maybe even triggering when we were bullied back, when we were younger, that also can play into the compassion fatigue and the vicarious trauma that we're experiencing. So that really kind of, jolted me back, that, being very mindful that bullying isn't just one way. There's so many different ways.
Yes.
But the second thing that came to mind was the self-bullying.
Yes.
And you don't really think of it in terms of bullying. When you have that inner, I call it the inner mean girl.
Yeah.
In your head, and telling you all the things that you can't do, all the things that you shouldn't do, or all the negative things. And it's really sad, because that's the voice that we hear most often.
Yes.
Is our inner voice.
And probably the loudest.
And yes, and it's probably the loudest voice.
Yeah.
And so when we allow that voice to bully us on a regular basis, it informs how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
It informs what we decide to pursue.
Yes.
Who we decide to pursue, the life we decide to have. And so it's such an important thing to recognize that. I know for me personally, out of this entire list, that was my biggest one personally. And that's one that I have, thankfully, every now and then I have to, stop and tell inner mean girl to cut it out. Nope, we're not going to do that.
Right.
And so I, several years ago, I developed a journal to help me do that.
Good.
Yeah. So that was super helpful, because what I was finding is that other people's voices, not just that negative Nancy self
Yeah.
voice, but also I was leaning really heavily on what other people said,
Yes.
positively and negatively.
Yes.
So if someone said something positive about me, that meant more than what I thought.
Yes.
Or same thing with negative. If they said something negatively, then it just ruined the whole day. And so I had to start learning to rely on my voice
Yes.
first. Of
Yes.
course, you can be, other people, and you can take their opinions and things like that. But my voice is the most important to me.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
That's because you're with you all the time. No
All
matter where
the
you
time.
go, you are with you. Do you have your book in your journal right there where you can hold them up?
I do. I do.
Please.
So I created this book. It's called My Book of Dopeness, a not so subtle reminder when I have trouble remembering who the F I am. So yes, it's a journal, and it uh, provides a place where you can write down all the dope things that you do in your own words, whether those things are tiny to the large things. They can be things like, I got up today and on time, and made it to work, went, because I know that that's something that I struggle with, but today I did it.
Yeah.
Or whether it's, I delivered a keynote in front of, 3,000 people today, and I thought I rocked it. The energy that I came off the stage with was just electric. So from
That's
the
awesome.
teeny tiny to the really large, and then on those days when that voice get super negative, or you find yourself relying too heavily on other people's opinions,
Yes.
then you can go back to your own words and
Yes.
say, wait, whoa, 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 hold on. I have proof. I
Yes.
have proof here.
Yes.
No, I'm dope. I'm dope. I do dope things. So
Yes.
this dope thing that I'm considering doing, yeah, you can do that too.
Yes.
So yeah.
That was the journal. That was the book.
Yes, this is the book. This is
And
my book of dopeness.
and the journal is the same name.
No, this is the journal and the book are the same thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and you can get it on Amazon.
okay.
Yep.
So it's really cool how, because this is something that I've just learned, the power behind is saying what I am,
Yes.
and I've heard, affirmations, say affirmations over yourself. I've heard all this for years,
Mm-hmm.
but recently some things has been happening in my life that I've had to trust the process. And so the poem that I was just talking about this faith walk has really gotten me into a different place. So where's my dependence? Well, who am I relying on
Mm-hmm.
to get what I need, and and so I've learned the power behind I am statements.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have, because one of the things that I'm out, the scriptures say something about encouraging yourself. And so I've learned through, the I am statements, or I have, and building myself up, the more that I say those things,
Mm-hmm.
and, verbally, like I'm talking right now, the more power I feel, and I feel like I'm like Muhammad Ali shuffling, you know.
Yes.
Like, come on, I ain't that.
Yes.
I ain't that. And I don't be saying I ain't that. I ain't
Yes.
this. I just keep saying what I am,
I am. Yes.
because it has more power than what I ain't, and what
Yes.
lies I'm telling myself, the lies I'm hearing, in my head,
Mhm.
the lies I'm hearing from other people. So
Yes.
it has really changed my life. And it's like, man, I've been wanting to get to this place for
Yeah.
so many years. I, allowed defeat and
Mhm.
hopelessness and all of those things to keep me down, because that's a part of bullying,
Yes.
and allowing myself to be a people pleaser because
Mm.
I didn't know any better. I thought it was, if I, allow them to treat me this way, maybe, if I don't say nothing, then maybe they'll start treating me better. People don't care. Oh, you gonna let me beat you up? I'm just beat you up, so
Mhm. Not even just that, but we teach people how to treat us.
yes.
We
And
teach
I didn't understand that until now. So
Mm-hmm.
now I really understand that, and creating boundaries and
Yes.
sticking to them.
Yes.
So, once I learn how to create boundaries, then I'm like, okay, well, I'll let up because they being nice. And people flip on you in a minute. So
They do.
I've learned how to create the boundaries and stick to them. And whatever you going through, too bad. I'm not, as long as I'm not
Mm.
treating you bad, I'm not, mistreating you, then
Mhm.
I don't care. What you're talking about,
Yeah.
it's nothing. I'm not going to allow you to continue to beat me down and mistreat me just because that's what you want,
Right.
And so when I learned about all these different types of bullies, I was like, whoa. And then I gave the list to Gene to look at, and I said, son, look at this. This is crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
so he said,
Mm-hmm.
Mom, there's a self bully too. And I looked it up
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy. The I always, and forgive me because I am I'm a theater artist, but I'm always forever and ever, amen, will be an educator. Um the thought that what many educators are going through right now, the amount of bullying from outside of the school building, that there of course organizational bullying happens um every day, every day. But the amount of bullying that's happening from our legislators, from outside of the classroom, it's enormous. It's enormous, and it is also one of the reasons that is driving educators out of the profession.
Wow.
Because when you put your heart and soul into something um, that you're so passionate about, into young people, into developing young people, and you've gone to school for years and years and years, educators, I think out of my circle of educators, um, all of them have advanced degrees. So they have masters and above. A lot of them have double masters.
Wow.
And to have someone outside of the school system tell you
What
um,
you can and can't do.
what you can and cannot do, and that there's a better way to do it, not having any of the
Experience.
educational experience or expertise,
Yes.
years in the game. It's disheartening to on one end, and it's infuriating on the other.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes this kind of situation where I have multiple advanced degrees. I don't have to put up with this. I love my students,
Yeah.
but I don't have to put up with this. You hear that all the time. It's like, I love teaching. I love closing the door and teaching my students. Beyond that, I don't like what I do. And so why is that? How can we change the narrative? How can we stop the outside bullying of educators? Or how can we give, arm teachers with the tools and the strategies, excuse me, to kind of shut that out and keep doing the effective job that they're doing. Keep those rock star educators in place. And when I say educators, I mean because principals are hemorrhaging too.
Yeah.
We're hemorrhaging principals as well. Yeah.
So Mark had a couple comments. He asked, how a couple comments and questions.
Okay.
How has theater and role playing helped you deal with bullying?
Oh, that's a great question. Me personally, so I use that a lot in my professional development. So what happens a lot of times, not all the time, but the bully doesn't necessarily always see very clearly what they're doing
Yeah.
negatively. They don't always see that because humans are self-centered people. We are made to kind of think of ourselves and first.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't see it. And so in my professional development, there's a lot of role playing so that we can kind of see what things are happening. This works very well with young people. Although I'm finding, and I had this conversation with my husband the other day, that this generation of young people are probably the most empathetic group I've ever, in my work with young people. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive. But when I go into schools, they are, well, in the schools that I've been in, let's say that, in the schools that I've been in, they are the most cognizant of the bullying and the jumping on people.
Good.
Not saying that it doesn't happen, because it still happens in droves, but they're
Right.
also very cognizant of what is happening. So using that role play, putting yourselves in the shoes of both bully and the bullied. It's such an eye-opening thing. Theater it has a way of doing that. So it's also one of the reasons why I incorporate it in what I do.
Yeah. So I will come back to those things, but what just came to mind while you were talking is I actually did a seminar in a local theater last year. And so part of what I like to do when I do seminars is I like to, and it was so good for them because that's part of what they do anyway. But what I like to do is role playing. So I have them not well acting. I like to have them, act out, a group of people put together, a short little skit,
Mhm.
to share with others. And then for the rest of the group to, point out the types of bullying that was displayed, in
Mhm.
the skit. And
Mhm.
so that's a lot of fun, and they really enjoyed that. But that's something that I've done, in the past. And I, just because I like skits, I like plays, and so that's just a good way to, get them to be able to identify exactly what they're seeing.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're fine. Go ahead.
Absolutely. It's a more, I find it's a more effective way
Yeah.
than just giving them, a PowerPoint
Yes.
or a handout, being able to embody it and feeling what it feels like on all sides. And then um, definitely heightens the empathy when you're able to act it out and,
Yeah.
step into those shoes. Again, on both sides. And not saying that my work really deals with the humanity of people, right? So why are we bullying? Why is this person bullying?
Yeah.
And so if we can figure out, why am I being nasty
Yeah.
right now? What is going on? Then and get them to see that, then we can start helping healing whatever that thing
Yeah.
is that the nastiness is coming from. So having that empathy for the person who is bullying, like, yo, wait, are you okay?
Yeah.
I don't think you're okay. That it's not okay to do this,
Right.
as well as the bullied person. So role play, kudos to you, because that is a beautiful way,
Yeah.
a much more effective way, I think, to get the
Yeah.
point across.
I enjoy doing it because I enjoy seeing what they can come up with.
Mhm.
I've shared the list of the different types of bullies. I've given you some case scenarios. Now we're going to, do some skits.
Right.
And so I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy seeing it. And that was the first time I did it with, and they were the educators. So
Mhm.
they weren't the actors and actresses. They were
Mhm.
the educators that I was
Mhm.
doing a seminar with. So it went really well. So Mark also said, did you want to make a comment to what I just said?
No, it was great. Yes.
We're running out of time. So it's like now I got to hurry up and get, whatever little bit more I can get. So Mark also said we are dealing with bullying now in the workplace where a lot of support school staff is not getting paid enough. And then
Mm.
he added they were given a raise and then the raise was partially retracted. If that isn't bullying, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I've been following that, and ridiculous isn't even the word I want to use. I don't know if I can use the word that I want to use on this lovely show, but
Probably not.
probably not. Probably not. But yeah,
I say that to Gina a lot. Don't cuss on my show. And he'll say hell in a minute. He was saying it last week, and then he said, Can I say that? And Mark got on. He said, "Yeah, you can say it." Jen said, "I know I can say it with you, but I'm talking about with her." And I
Oh
say,
my
"Hell
God.
is a real place."
It is a real place. It is. But
It
that's a horrible, horrible situation.
Yeah.
Um, when educators are already, like you said, underpaid and undervalued, and to retract, no.
Yeah, that is a bad thing. It's like dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit. Don't tease people like that. And teasing, did you see that's part of bullying? That's part
Yes,
of bullying.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And then it's oh, that can take us a whole nother place. That can take us a whole other place.
I was just gonna pop in for a second and everything, and as y'all can see, the drums are in the background. But Miss Clay, I was just wondering your thoughts around the importance of support staff, because that's actually what I was alluding to. Because I know that my mother was a guidance counselor way back when, and I've definitely had other support staff in the school system. So I always think of them as being very important, but I don't know that they necessarily get the support that they need, whether it's everybody from the cafeteria worker to the janitors to the guidance counselor. So, as an educator, I just wanted in there your thoughts around that support staff, because a lot of times they are getting, and that's what I was kind of alluding to, bullied from all extremes, from both the school board, and it's not just here in Durham, it's around the country, but from the school board and the teachers and definitely the students as well. But I just wanted your take on that, because I don't know that we give enough support to those that are helping the school being run.
you know, Mark, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I'm going to tell you right now, they are my favorite people in the school. I'm going to be honest. When I first started teaching, my husband gave me the best advice ever, and he said, the first week that you come into the school, make sure that you meet and get to know the custodial staff, the the lunch ladies, the support staff, because they are the glue. They are the people who make the school run. They are so important in the whole process. And you're absolutely right. The amount of mm, it's almost like they are invisible. I haven't seen them being, well, my students knew better around me to disrespect anybody, but I haven't seen support staff be disrespected, but it's almost like they're invisible. And I'm like, no, they are absolutely not. Let one day go by when the support staff is not there. The school falls apart completely. And so again, I can't say enough how important they are to the process. That they are humans, they are people. And again, when I was teaching and when I was in the classroom, I should say, I'm still teaching, but when I was in the classroom, my favorite people were the custodial staff. And I guess as a theater teacher, it's, I don't know if it's a little different or not, but always needing things, done. And they knew, like, Clay, what you need, what you need, what you need. And knowing their names, knowing their family. Oh yeah, your daughter just had a birthday. It's important. We do that with our colleagues, our instructional colleagues. We need to continue doing that with our support colleagues, and not just the front office. So thank you for bringing that out. So
No
important.
problem. Give it a bounce off, let y'all close out. But just really quickly, I was wondering your thoughts around the pay, because to me that's another thing around bullying. And I think of teachers, I also think of law enforcement and a number of other folks that are critical to our society, and even artists. And I know we hear about the big ones that get paid to, like, the big superstars, but I know a lot of theater people that are struggling on a day-to-day basis and are basically getting from paycheck to paycheck, if that, and having to work multiple jobs. I have a dear friend of mine who's a funk musician, and he actually has to drive Uber and other things in order to survive. So I was just wondering your thoughts about the importance of pay as well. And then also,
Absolutely. So one of the it's funny that you say about driving Uber. A lot of teachers with multiple degrees and multiple student loans to go with those degrees, a lot of times find themselves having to take 2 and 3 jobs. And I think that is atrocious. I think that is horrible. When you have lawyers and doctors making the money, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't make that, but they also have advanced degrees. But not once do you see a doctor saying, "Oh, I have to, drive for Lyft this weekend because in order to make my ends meet," or I have to get a job at Target or wherever. It's ridiculous, especially when, and I'm speaking specifically for educators, and because you're right about artists and support staff and everyone else, but instructional staff, the amount of unpaid work that is already required in a lot of places for teachers, to on top of that have to do odd jobs to just make ends meet and get food on the table for their family. That's not right. And so we have to fight harder, legislative wise. We have to fight harder because it's not right. Stephanie, I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
Yes, Steph, you're on mute. There you go.
I thought I took it off mute. I apologize. Thank you for letting me know it was on mute, because I was just going to keep talking. It is horrible that they, have to get, additional work to, to live. But that's a part of what's happening right now. And we have to, find ways to, to help them and to support them. I do want to ask you, because we're at the end of our show, are you in one school? Or are you in multiple schools?
I'm in multiple schools. So I support, right now, I'm supporting 2 schools, one in New York, in Jamaica, Queens, and one in Atlanta. But I also, and those are full year professional developments, full year professional development series called Reignite the Educator. But beyond that, I support school systems. Like I said, just a couple of days ago, I was supporting a school system. So I go all across the country. From the furthest I've gone is LA, to the other coast, to right here outside of Washington, D.C. So wherever there is need and wherever I can help support the culture of the school and support teachers, so that we can keep those rock star teachers in the classroom, is where I go.
So you do contract work?
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And the work you do is amazing. It's wonderful to hear that you, focus on the students and,
yes,
on the teachers, because they all need it. And so it's wonderful that you see that and that you have, programs for them. So I just want to say thank you for being on our show. The time always goes by so fast, we really get into the conversation. But I want to thank you for taking the time to be on our show. You can see that, how to contact Ayesis, scrolling across the screen. I'm still trying to cough.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, I'm not talking the way I want. But Ayesis, thank you again for being on our show. And again, for those of you who are watching, you can watch us next Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time right here. You can also go to our YouTube channel, Love Misunderstood Institute. Check out all of our episodes there under our playlist, Where is the Love? Ayesis, do you have anything you want to say to end the show?
Just really quickly, if there's anybody who is on social media, my Instagram handle is @sculptedclay. And if you are interested in discussing some professional development support for your school or for your organization, just reach out either there or at my website, sculptedclayproductions.com.
Thank you.
And thank you. Let me say that. And thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really great conversation. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. And if you would stay, there's going to be our outro video played, and then we're going to come back in and chat a little bit. So we're ready, Mark. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. See you next Sunday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time.
The police took another life. Gunshots rang out, even though he had his hands held high. Yo, I'm sick and tired to walk my brother's short lines. Need to come together, set a plan, and then mobilize. Oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on your feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Monsanto monopolized the whole grocery line. So we all gon' have 12 toes, 3 thumbs, 3 eyes. If we keep being sheep, these wolves are gon' rob us blind. Let's occupy our mind space, cause the revolution won't be televised. Oh, what are we gon' do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about all the hell that we're going through? Now stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on your feet. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, rise up and know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up, y'all, we can do this, you and me. Oh, mercy, mercy me. The government should nurture all when will all these wars be done? Hopefully before the love gonna have the money. Before another mother has a on her son. Shout out into the walls of Babel on your feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up, you know you ain't gotta follow, you can lead. Stand up y'all, we can do this, you and me. Stand up, shout out into the walls of Babel on the feet. Stand up, come on y'all, and let's make some history. Stand up, rise up.